It's the question that drives us. It's the question that brought you here. So plug in, free your mind. Welcome to Echoes of Eternity.
BMX racers need strong legs, flexible arms, and a cool head. But more than that is a proper mental strategy. Alongside the regular physical training that any BMX track racer needs is a mindset that clears the way for faster, more skillful rides. Our guest today is no stranger to the world of two wheels, with BMX racing podium finishes not only at the local level but at the international level as well. Most recently, he has taken on the challenge of road cycling and is already collecting medals. When he's not on the road or track, you will find him creating software applications as a software design engineer, hanging out with family, or sipping a cold one with friends. A true blast from the past for me personally. I am so proud to present to you my friend, Miguel Carvalho. Migs, welcome to Echoes of Eternity, man.
Cool, thank you. It's good to be here.
It's nice to reconnect after, I just mentioned, like it's I think it's decades. It's probably like more than 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so nice to see you again, and congratulations on all your achievements so far. I mean, I've been tracking you, I think, since forever. And yeah, so just to kick off, right? And you must tell me if I'm wrong here, but you strike me as the kind of person that has like this wild or crazy bucket list. I don't know, can you maybe share with us one thing that's on that bucket list that you've maybe already done or that you dream of doing one day?
Yeah, look, I'm not that adventurous. I mean, when it comes to doing sport and like competing in events and stuff, I mean, I enjoy multiple disciplines and all sorts of things, but like actual bucket list things, luckily my fiance Daniela helps me out with kind of the more, I mean, she bought me a skydiving experience for my birthday and kind of makes me spend money on holidays and enjoy the finer sides of life. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I have many bucket list things, but yeah, I think I just like to do a lot of different things. And when I do get into something, I put my whole entire being into it. But yeah.
That's fantastic, man. I'm glad you have someone that actually pushes you to be out there. Like I said, you just always struck me as the kind of guy that would do these adventurous things, but it's nice to know that as well. I hope you enjoyed the skydiving.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, awesome, man. Now, I remember this, and I don't know if you'll remember, but I think it was in grade 2. Back in Mondio Primary, you and I were friends, and you actually invited, I think it was just like 2 or 3 of us for your birthday, and we went go-karting. I don't know, do you remember this?
Yeah, I don't actually. Sorry, I've got a terrible memory.
No.
I mean, I do. I remembered when you called me for this. I kind of reflected a little bit about where I did see you along life. And I mean, if it's since Mondio Primary, that's been a long time. But now that you say it, I think I do remember.
I think you switched schools though, right?
I did, yeah.
Yes.
So after Mondio, then I went to Glenanda Primary but yeah, I actually do have a subtle memory of that. But
yeah, no, my memory is weird like that. So yeah, so you invited us for go-karting, and I actually remember because I know I crashed my go-kart on that day. But I wanted to ask, like, you got me thinking, because at that same place, I know that they used to do like BMX racing, and they had the track for it. When did you actually get into BMX?
Yeah, so look, I grew up in Glen Vista, and there was basically, I mean, I've always loved bicycles, and my dad at some stage bought me, I don't know if I asked or he just bought me, but I got basically a dirt jumping BMX bicycle, which is not, I mean, it's not a BMX racing bicycle, but it's more just for like what they call dirt jumps. So it's just basically a couple of jumps in a row with kind of steep lips where you try to go high, and some people do tricks and stuff. So yeah, I had a bicycle then, growing up, kind of just going on the streets, meeting a few friends. And yeah, so from the dirt jumping scene, just riding around what they used to call the river jumps. There was a couple of us there, I mean, from all walks of life. My age, a lot older.
And how old were you at the time? Do you remember?
So this must have been, I can't even remember, but it must have been from grade 3. So how old are you in grade 3?
Yeah, that's pretty. I think nine.
Yeah, 9 years old. So I think around then. Look, obviously before then I did have a bicycle and probably rode around my house or neighborhood or whatever it was. But I think from then I started venturing a little bit outside and got some friends that also enjoyed dirt jumping and riding bicycles. So it started off like that. I've always just loved doing that. And then I think one of my friends, his name was Gareth Hill. He went to Glenanda with us, and I don't know if it was him, but someone took him to a BMX track. He eventually took me, and we went there. I mean, my eyes lit up. It was basically a 30-second lap of awesome jumps and just full of adrenaline. And so eventually I convinced my dad to buy me a BMX racing bicycle. Got surprised on my one birthday. The morning there was a bicycle sitting there, and then I just got into it. And thankfully he would do everything for me, coming to the track twice a week to training. Obviously I was too young to drive there, so he would have to drive there after work, take me back home. Every weekend, Saturday we'd go train as well, and then Sunday we would race. So it took up a lot of his time, but he was willing to give me everything. So luckily I had that proper support from him. But that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. And I love that, you said that it looks like it was like a love at first sight kind of thing when you saw it and you wanted to get into it. And then you said obviously your dad bought you the bicycle and then you started going to the track and races and stuff. When did you kind of make that decision to do it competitively?
Look, I think it happened all really quickly once I got the bicycle. I mean, obviously the first initial times I went on my dirt jumping bicycle, which you can ride on there, but I mean, competing with it's a much heavier bike, and so once I got all the gear and the correct bicycle, it was pretty quick after that. I mean, the first year they have what they call a novice category and then an expert category. So generally when you start off with the novice category, and you can kind of, I don't know if you have to win novice category or what you have to do, but at some point you can then decide to go up to expert category, and then you obviously race more of the competitive guys. So I think my first year I started off in novice, and obviously, I mean, I wasn't too young. I was like 13 when I actually started competing. So there's a lot of guys that have started much younger. I mean, from almost 5 years old, and some special guys that even started 3. So obviously those guys are extremely competitive and they've got a lot of experience. I mean, it counts a lot. So at 13, I wasn't very young, but I mean, I started off, I think because of my dirt jumping experience, I kind of took the hang of it, or got the hang of it pretty quickly. And the first year of novice, I did pretty well. I think I won kind of most of my races. I had a bit of competition here and there, but won most of them. And then, the next year I went up to expert, and then I don't know if it was 14 expert or whatever it was. But I just enjoyed competing. I wasn't always the best, but I've always been a disciplined guy that puts in the work and determined to kind of win. I wanted to win, not just be there and participate.
So I mean, that's really interesting, because I know for some people, and maybe even myself a little bit, and I guess it just because of circumstances, and you're not always the winner when you're competing. But it sounds like you really enjoyed the competitive nature of the sport and stuff. I mean, where does that stem from? Is it like just from young you were just this competitive guy and you just thrived in that sort of environment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's from very young, being at my family's house and playing board games with my family and storming off when I didn't win and crying, and them almost having to pretend I've won just to not upset me. So, I mean, I've always been extremely competitive. Obviously, as I've grown up, I've become slightly better at maybe not accepting it, but pretending I accept it.
That's brilliant.
But
so I guess no Monopoly nights at your house then.
No, look, now it works, and we play a lot of board games. I mean, even just with our friends, and
No, I think it's interesting, because it sounds like the competition didn't detract from the fun for you. I think a lot of people, when I shouldn't say a lot of people, is making an assumption, but the minute you decide to take something that you were doing for fun and you take it to a competitive level, it can start detracting from the fun, right? Because it's a whole new game. Then you've got training, discipline. It's a different beast almost. But like it sounds like for you, it was just all the same and you're really enjoying it.
Look, I mean, I have gone through points of my life where being too serious can become, like you say, detracting from the fun. But yeah, I think fortunate for me, I have kind of done well with most of the things that I've done. So I haven't battled too much with that. But I mean, not to say I was always winning and always doing the best. I mean, I was, especially in BMX. I mean, BMX I loved and I put all my life into it, but I wasn't necessarily the best. I was one of the best, but yeah, so I mean, I did have to accept not winning all the time, but yeah, I mean, you just got to look at the small successes. And also, I think I'm good at understanding when I am second best or third best, and just, I mean, knowing that that's still good enough or still good compared to like the majority of the field was enough for me to still
So
stay.
I was just going to ask, like, can you actually recall a time when, because obviously you said it in the beginning, right? You're a guy that puts your whole heart into something once you get into it. And there's so much training that goes on into the races and stuff. Was there ever a time where you felt like you should have been on the podium and you just didn't actually make it? And then how did you find the courage not to give up, right? Because there's so much effort that goes into it.
Yeah, look, I mean, there was definitely many times not being on the podium. Either, obviously, it's a bit easier to accept when it's a crash or something that's not in your control. But sometimes it's, I mean, especially with BMX racing, you can make very small mistakes and just lose it all. But you can also just be not the best on the day. And, it wasn't too difficult for me to accept. I mean, I just took it on the chin. And, not giving up, I think, because all the things that I have done, I've really loved, it was never a thought for me to give up. It was always just kind of look to the future. What can I do to be a bit better? Can I work a bit harder? I mean, a lot of it's also mental. So can I build the confidence in myself to actually do better? I think I always, because of the love, it kept me.
I mean, that's amazing. It's something I actually want to take a page out of your notebook for that. And I'm just going to highlight it again. So if you love something, you don't find an excuse to give up, right? You try and better yourself, you self-reflect. And like you're saying, I mean, that's incredible. So well done for that.
Thank you.
Now you mentioned something and I do want to chat about it. And, you even said in the beginning when you went with your friends and it was like a 30-second lap of jumps and even the BMX racing, right? As far as I understand, those races are pretty quick, right? And you've got to make these split-second decisions, I'm assuming. I mean, how do you even train for something like that?
Oh, look, BMX it's really quick. It's literally a 30 to 40-second lap. Obviously, at race pace, like the fastest it's going to be. But, I mean, the split decisions, they're not easy. They come with kind of, you got to, I mean, with more experience, you get, your gut kind of gets trained and you make better decisions. But I don't know. I think it's all about experience and learning. And if you want to win enough, you will take that risk. And maybe it doesn't pay off that day, but you'll kind of learn a lesson for next time. Okay, that decision wasn't the right one. And look, I suppose you're talking about split decisions, so these are mostly like just going with your gut. But for me, it's come pretty naturally, I think. But I think experience and just trusting yourself is the best thing. I think with a lot of things I've done in my life, as soon as I've built up confidence in myself, then everything just rolls over a lot easier and the kind of performance comes naturally. Obviously, barring the hard work and the discipline that comes before it. But yeah.
But I think, I mean, that's so important to highlight as well as, like you're saying, it's the discipline and the hard work, right? That is almost like the foundation and that gives you the confidence. And it gives you the confidence to keep going. So that builds experience. And then through that experience, it's like your gut starts taking over because you've done it so many times.
Yeah.
I'm going to make like a mental note for myself of that as well. I think that's brilliant. And now you mentioned it as well, like you don't always finish on the podium because it might be because of, you just want the best on the day, whatever. But sometimes it might be that you crash, right? I don't know, have you ever experienced that sort of setback ever, like injury or something? And like, how did you like overcome that, like bounce back from it? And
Yeah, look, I've had. Since we're on the topic of BMX, I'll start there. But yeah, I don't know what year it was. Probably around maybe 2013-ish. There was a Junior Olympics coming up, and it was kind of between, I don't know, me and maybe two other guys, kind of who gets that qualification spot to go to the Junior Olympics and participate. And I mean, the Olympics, I think in 2008 was the first year BMX was a part of it. And yeah, I don't know, the Olympics is just the top of every sport. I mean, the Olympics is kind of the focal point of almost every discipline of sport. If you want to, I mean, even just participating there is one of the biggest achievements for most sporting disciplines. So I think, yeah, it was leading up to that. And yeah, at a national championships down in KZN, I don't remember how I fell, but yeah, I fell and I ended up breaking my left thumb bone here. And yeah, obviously this was now, I don't know how long it was, if it was maybe 2-3 months before this Olympics event, or at least when I needed to be selected for it. So it was, I think I know what it was. There was a national championships coming up, and I fell like kind of maybe 2 months before it. So obviously that was a big qualification criteria for the Junior Olympics. So yeah, I had to have an operation, and I mean, my dad tried to do everything he could by seeing the best doctors and making things as quick as possible. But I mean, after operations, bones and all the things like that have a specific healing time, and that's kind of it. So yeah, I had my operation, kind of just, I mean, at the time, I don't know if I did any training while I was healing or anything like that, but it was basically just trying to get the quickest possible return to riding. And yeah, fortunately, I think the healing went pretty good, and I was able to race that national championships 2 months after that. But yeah, I suppose that was the hardest part for me. Is with most, I mean, I've had a couple of injuries, but a lot of it was just kind of how long is it going to take me to get back on? And I think overcoming it, I mean, I think luckily I've got great friends and family around me, and like a proper support system that, just when you need to talk to someone and you're feeling a little bit down, because I mean, I'm a very anxious person, and these kind of setbacks affect me a lot mentally, and I think too much, and just having a good support system, I think, is what kept me.
Yeah, I was just gonna actually, I mean, yeah, it's actually amazing that you managed to get back and at least participate in the selection races and stuff. But you're touching on like something we haven't spoken about yet, but it's the mental side of everything. And yeah, like you're saying, you're an anxious person, and it's so important to have the right support. But how did you cope with the frustration of, I mean, like you said, you've had multiple setbacks and injuries, and you just can't wait to get back on the bike. But how do you, in terms of your mental wellness, like how do you actually manage it during that time?
Look, I suppose that's probably the most difficult time mentally, because a lot of, especially now, but a lot of this training and discipline is what helps me mentally. So it's because I'm anxious, and I mean, my mom's got a bit of history with depression. So not that I've had it, but I've always been, I need something to keep me motivated. And so I think actually competing and training and all that is what keeps me sane and keeps me happy. So yeah, I suppose managing it while I was off, I don't know, I think it was just leaning on people and just looking for that hope that, you know what, it's only 3 weeks. These things kind of pass by quicker than you know it. But yeah, it wasn't easy.
No, I can imagine, but it sounds like you, or at least racing and let's call it BMX and now road cycling, all of that kind of gives you a purpose, right? And you wake up with this drive almost. And I think it's important, like you're saying, I never thought about it, but like you mentioned, like we touched depression, for example. and you're saying that if you have something to occupy your mind with, almost to giving yourself a purpose, it helps with that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've participated in many races. Given that you're an anxious person and you're saying that the training, obviously helps with that. But when the gates go down, I'm sure it's like quite, you're still quite nervous, right? Before that, the gates drop with the gunfires and you've got to go. How do you actually manage that nervousness like on race day?
Yeah, look, I think it's very difficult to manage. I mean, I'm inherently anxious, but nerves or pre-race nerves and nerves with competitive athletes there's almost no athletes that are not nervous. Everyone is sitting there really, really nervous and not feeling their best. I mean, even leading up to events, it's not just a couple minutes before the gate drops. It's the day before, it's weeks before, anticipating, am I going to be prepared? Who's going to be there? How are they going to be prepared? What is it going to look like? I mean, that's kind of what it looks like for me, is just replaying all these scenarios that it could be leading up to it. And I think the way I deal with it personally, because I think it's good to kind of replay these things in your head, but to a certain point. It mustn't be too much and, for instance, stopping you to sleep and things like that. So I think my dad's taught me a little trick, and it's just to kind of be in the now and kind of, like, as we're sitting here, just feel your bum on the chair and feel your arms on the chair and feel the temperature in the room, and just kind of think about that, to just take your mind off whatever's replaying in your head. And secondly to that, I think what a lot of the top BMX guys do is, you need, like, this is now maybe leading closer to the gate dropping, a couple of minutes before on the day. It's just prepare as much as you can, whether it be preparing your breakfast the night before or loading the car the night before. Everything must just be to plan. And the more structure you have, I mean, even from putting on your shoes, I don't know if it's superstition or what it is.
I was just going to ask about your superstitions. Yeah.
So, like, if it's putting on your left shoe first, or like just always doing that in the same way you trained, the same way you raced last time and possibly won. It's, just doing exactly the same thing. So, I mean, I'm not overly superstitious, but for some reason, still today, I'll put on my road cycling shoes, it'll be my left one first. And I think that structure kind of helps. Maybe it's because it's keeping your mind off thinking about it. So it's rather thinking about, put my left shoe on first. Or I don't know why it helps, but that structure helps a lot as well.
No, that's incredible. I mean, I like that you're saying, if you kind of have a routine and a structure, it just helps take away from some of the nervousness. But I also love that you mentioned, and I think it comes down to focus, really, but it's being present in the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy to forget about that, right? And I think it's so important for you. I mean, you can obviously talk more about it, but it's probably so important just to be focused and present, in the race and even before the race, just for your own mental well-being. Do you ever find yourself, though, like, throughout your journey, before we even get to like the road cycling, did you ever find yourself, comparing yourself against, like you said, you were not always like the best, or, you're not always finishing on the podium. Did you ever find yourself comparing yourself against, other races? And then, how did that, sort of play out for you?
Yeah, look, constantly. It's always comparing. I think I naturally do that with everything in my life, which is not the greatest thing, because I think we all need to have our kind of own lane and be happy with what we're doing. But I think I've always compared myself in all aspects of life. I mean, especially with BMX, having your biggest competitor next to you, comparing, from what bike he may have had, or looking at how much he's trained kind of leading up to it. I mean, back in the day with BMX, I kind of couldn't really see that unless it was guys that were local at the tracks that I would go to. But it was a constant comparison, and I think more negative than positive for any of those things. There was nothing like kind of positive comparing myself to anyone. It was just, I think as I got a bit older, I've started to learn, it's just be better than your yesterday kind of thing.
No, I think we also prone to comparison. I mean, yeah, to give you an example, I do it all the time, right? Like this podcasting is new for me, and I think we're so inbuilt for comparing. Like, it's just how we were, we grew up, I guess. But it's so important, like you mentioned, it's trying to be better than you were yesterday almost, and it's a race against yourself.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's pretty critical as well. Thanks for sharing that. And now, I mean, like the most recently you've taken on road cycling, right? When did that switch come? Because I know, like, I think I want to say BMX racing is a little bit more risky, right? I could be wrong. I mean, the most I've done on a bicycle is mountain biking, and that too not for too long. But, what was that switch like for you? When did that decision happen to switch from BMX to road cycling?
Yeah, so it wasn't over a short period of time. But basically, I mean, I started when I was 13 racing BMX. I raced for, I don't even know how many years it was, but basically till the end of matric. And I mean, I had plans I always hoped to kind of take it up as a career, which I think most competitive athletes do want to. But yeah, I think at the end of matric, I had the decision to now go study or try race BMX. And I mean, my family's always been wealthy enough to provide whatever I needed, but not wealthy enough to kind of give you the chance you need to race BMX. And it's kind of for a lot of sports in South Africa is you kind of need to go and race overseas. You got to live there, and I think it's mainly because of the kind of competition levels that there are there. I mean, here, if you've got maybe 4 to 6 really competitive guys that are racing you, you're lucky, at least for BMX. But if you go overseas, you've got, let's say, 60 people at that caliber, and there's always just one pushing the other. So the level, I mean, as soon as we went overseas, we were just a lot slower than them. Like really not even qualifying for the qualifying races kind of thing. Yeah. So so if I did want to pursue it, I would have had to try here in South Africa because my parents maybe wouldn't be able to afford me living there, feeding me, I mean, all the cost of actually racing. So yeah, I decided to go and study. I don't even know how I decided to study engineering, but...
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that as well. When I found out... so before we even get there, I mean, like, I think that's such an eye-opener, right? You mentioned, do you almost go pro? And it might sound a little bit controversial, but better than I do, but you need some sort of funding to get you to that next level. And I think it's eye-opening because we probably take it for granted a little bit that we might not have the same level of facilities, compared to like the guys overseas, and it just gives them that edge, which is quite sad for me, like when I think about it. But it is what it is, I guess, right? Let's get back to your decision to study engineering, right? Like, I mean, I remember you from, Monjo Primary, I think we were friends in grade 2, but then, we went to Glen Vista High and we weren't really like close then, but I would have never guessed. Like, when I did my research on you, right? And I'm like, this guy's electronic engineer. I was like mind blown. I'm like, I would have never guessed. So how did you actually come to that decision?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think all throughout the times I knew you and maybe you saw me around, it was all about sport. I mean, it was all about racing BMX. So that was where all my focus went. I messed around at school, didn't care about my marks. I always kind of, you're the polar opposite. You were the guy that we all looked up to for getting distinctions for every subject. But yeah, like I kind of always just did enough to be average and do it and just kind of get through. But then when at the end of, even with matric, I don't even think I had one distinction. But I had good enough maths and physics marks to kind of just scrape into engineering. I don't know why I did it. I think I had a little bit of I liked physics and maths, and maybe somebody told me somewhere that engineers make a lot of money and they need physics and maths. So I went to study electrical and electronic engineering at UJ. And it was weird. Now, I mean, my whole focus had shifted. I literally stopped cold turkey racing BMX. Would still maybe go to the track here and there, but it was now just studying. And again, like I've told you before, I put everything into what I do. So, I mean, I started first year. Obviously, a lot of the beginning of varsity, especially with the BSc or in engineering degrees, the maths and physics is hectic.
Yeah.
And it was obviously a massive shock to me, especially since I screwed around in school, didn't have the foundations and the backing. So, the first year was really tough. But luckily Daniela would sit by my side. She did a BCom, so either she's smart enough not to study hard, but she was on the bed most of the time watching TV while I was studying. But just having her around, having my family around, having the support, I just kind of built up some momentum, built some confidence in myself to actually do well, study hard, and again, put in the work, study, prepare, do a little bit more than everyone else that was doing this. So first year I kind of did average. Second year I started getting a bit of momentum, kind of believing that I can actually do well and I can get distinctions. And I think the rest is kind of history. I just started getting distinctions for most things, really did well, built up a passion for what I was doing, thankfully. I mean, even though I landed there by luck, but I think I've got a passion for it now. And I think throughout the rest of university it was easy because I prepared well, I did well, came out with it. And again, lucky, got a job pretty easily. Oh, actually my fourth year I got a bursary, obviously because my marks were good enough. In the beginning it wasn't, but I got a bursary. So then I had to start working at the company that paid for my last year. And they figured out I had a Portuguese passport and it was a governmental company and you need like a special security clearance. So I ended up getting another job. They were willing to pay me out. And I stayed at that company for 6 years. But I think it's a big shock to a lot of people that know me from school because I just screwed around.
Yeah.
But somehow managed
I won't elaborate on that one. No, but brilliant, man. I think that's it's incredible. Like, well done to you. Take my hats off to you. And that's exactly what this podcast is about, right? And that's why I love, just finding these people that truly have done amazing things. And I think your story speaks so much to hard work and, that like, again, discipline. And, you mentioned it, you said the words, I try to be, better than everyone else or put in much more work than I think everyone else is putting in. And I think that's so important, and it's great. I think it's given me some motivation actually right now.
I think you've been pretty similar. I mean, you worked hard in school.
So I did, but so I mean, like you've heard the founder's story, and I think others have as well. And I was the complete opposite. So in primary, I loved my sport, but I focused on studies. But coming from an Indian background, the focus is like meet any Indian person, they'll tell you that the focus is on academics. It's very important. And I never actually thought about is Miguel working hard? Okay, let me work 5% harder. I just had my head stuck in the books, and that was my life. And then, like you said, the rest was history. But I think right now, you telling your story is just so inspiring for so many people out there that even though, at the time, during school, you might not be, the best or top of the class, or you're not focusing on your studies or whatever. It doesn't mean that, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, that's, going to be where your story ends. You never know, right? And you testament to that. So well done.
Yeah. So I think going back to, 3 questions ago, how I got to road cycling, because I think that's all led on to each other. But my mates, Dustin and Carl, they had a mountain bike or a road bike, I don't know which one it was. I think they had mountain bikes, and they always, I still had my bicycle, my BMX in my garage, not doing much. And they always kind of egging me on to buy a bicycle, buy a mountain bike, come around with them. And I don't know, one thing led on to the other. Another friend had a mountain bike. I basically sold my BMX for a bit of money, bought a mountain bike, really like low-end mountain bike, but it worked. And then I just started cycling more and more. Got given a road bike from Carl's dad, Alan. Obviously, again, a very cheap road bike, but yeah, I rode more and more. The cycling community is like quite inclusive, and I mean, it's not just about who's the cool guys. It's if you get into a group, everybody's kind of nice and welcoming. Let's go ride in the mornings, have a cup of coffee at a coffee shop afterwards. So it's kind of, I enjoyed that aspect of it. So yeah, I just started riding more and more, entered a little race here and there. Always did like kind of better than my friends and better than most people. And yeah, I think one thing led on to the other. Not that I've ever spent a massive amount on my bicycle. I mean, people spend over 200,000 Rand on their bicycles. I'm not that guy. Not that my bike's worth nothing, but I've always had like the lower end of what I need, but I've just made it work. I mean, especially with road cycling, it makes a difference, but it's all about very small differences. I can make those marginal gains elsewhere where people maybe can make it on their bicycle or whatever the case was. So I think I bought a bicycle and then just started riding more and more and started competing. I mean, it hasn't been too long. I think about 3.5 years starting with mountain biking and now road cycling. I mean, I still do both, but yeah, I enjoy the road cycling scene a little bit better, at least the racing, because there's a lot of tactics involved and there's a lot of aerodynamics plays a big part. So if you're in like a big bunch of, say, 30 guys, even if you're a little bit weaker than the strongest guy, you can kind of hide in the bunch and we can all race together. So basically it keeps everyone, there's more of a group. Whereas if you ride mountain biking, it's a lot slower because you're obviously going up mountains and off-road. So that aerodynamic drag is not such a big effect. So usually the stronger guys will just ride away, or you might be the stronger guy, but you're going to ride alone. So the whole race is basically just 3 to 4 hours of bleeding out your eyes on your own. And I mean, that side of it I don't particularly love. So that's why I've leaned more towards the road cycling. And yeah, I've got a good team, like close friends of ours here in the south of Joburg. And yeah, I think I've put in the hard work, got a team, like I said, it's called Premier Logistics Solutions. I mean, it's a nice bunch of friends, some competitive guys, some not so competitive guys, but yeah, I think it's all just a good community, and yeah, I've put in the work and enjoyed it. And luckily great, the results have come with it.
That's so, great. Thanks for sharing that story with us. And I like that you said that. I mean, I can't speak to the world, but at least like you're saying here, the biking community is quite inclusive and it has a sense of community, which is nice. Yeah. I have to ask one question though before we get to our lightning round, which is something new, but I thought I'd do it with you. All cycling related, so don't worry. But now road cycling is definitely, I'd like to think the mindset has to be different to BMX racing, right? It's more about endurance. What do you say to yourself, during like a road cycling race? And I mean, those races I can imagine are much longer. And, your legs are starting to ache and you want to quit. I mean, what do you say to yourself to get you to the finish line?
Oh, look, it's totally different from BMX. Like you say, I mean, BMX is a sprint sport. It's 30 seconds max out. The preparation is different. The actual muscles that you use are different. And I almost wish I realized that a little bit earlier, but I think my natural ability or talents actually lie more on the endurance side. Not that I didn't have the fast twitch that I needed, but I think, even through some of the endurance training we did with BMX, like some of the endurance stuff, I would kind of excel more than my fellow athletes. So I should have kind of seen it, or I should have seen it a bit, but yeah, so I think, it's very different. And I don't know, I think I've always just been really strong-minded and willing to just suffer until I can't suffer anymore. So I think it's a little bit of a natural thing. Like you're either able to suffer and sit there at that threshold for a long time or you're not. And obviously, preparing and like being as fit as you can to be there is also plays a big part.
I think it speaks like volumes to your mental resilience then actually. I like that you say you can, it's about suffering and who can sit there and suffer through it. And I think that speaks to mental resilience. Brilliant. So like I mentioned, I want to do a quick lightning round, 3 questions, short answers, and then we'll jump into reflections. Okay, so For road cycling, right? Do you prefer clipless or flat pedals?
Clipless. You literally can't ride flat pedals in both of the sports I've done.
Despite the falling that comes with it. I mean, I've done clipless with mountain biking, but I've had a good few falls. But I mean, it's much better. Yeah. Mountain biking, do you go hardtail or full suspension?
I would go full suspension, but I've always only had a hardtail. I think my BMX backing and skills have kept me able to ride a hardtail with everybody else with a softtail. So, and they're cheaper, and I don't like to spend too much money because I like to do a lot of things.
No. Full suspension is very expensive. No, cool. And then hydration. Do you do water or sports drink?
Sports drink all the way. I mean, for endurance sports, your body needs to be fed. It's a massive part of it. So, look, if I could have 5 bottles on my bike, then I would like some water, but it's better to do a sports drink and have the carbs.
Okay, do you have a favorite? I don't know if we can mention this, but do you have like a favorite or preferred sports drink? Just because, in case people want to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, look, I think one thing I would love is a nutrition sponsor, but maybe that will come. Yeah. So look, I think I've taken a lark into, it's called Cadence. It's a cycling brand. Not everybody will know about it. But I think that's my preferred choice of nutrition at the moment.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to jump into your reflections. So I know you've at least brought something with you today. So do you want to grab it and then, maybe describe what you brought for us today, and then tell us the story behind it.
Yeah. So look, I watched your previous podcast and you brought this cool sword, or at least the one that's been aired, and I was like, wow, I don't have a cool, like, I'm not really sentimental in that way, and I don't have much cool. So, I mean, I just went with what happened 2-3 weeks ago. And basically, I participated in the national championships of road cycling in my age category, which is 35 to 39. It's called VA, like for vets. And I think coming into this year, I put a lot of work in, many months, and I didn't expect to kind of win this, but one thing led on to the next, and my dream came true kind of vibe. So, it's basically the shirt you get when you win. Let me zip it up. The shirt you get when you win national championships. Obviously, you can't just buy one of these, and I think it's not really so much about exactly this shirt, but basically you get the privilege of wearing the South African flag across your chest and back for the entire year, because now you've won national championships for that year until the next event. And I can wear a strap on my sleeve for the foreseeable future, or until I stop racing. So basically every cycling jersey I get from a team is allowed to have this, and then for this year a strap on it. So it's just important to me, obviously, because I've won the national championships, and it was a big achievement for me, and unexpected.
No, well done, man. And I think it's a massive achievement. And it, like you said, it's like a dream come true, right? Because you can't just buy this off the shelf. You've got to earn that. And it speaks to everything you've mentioned today, the hard work, the talent, putting in the hours, and it pays off, right? I just absolutely love it. Migs, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming through and sharing everything with us. Loved it. I hope you had a good time as well, man.
Cool. Thank you for having me. Well done on starting this, and I hope it's a massive success. Good luck.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate that.
Cool.